devastating atrocities took place in Jamaica. And sometimes when you hear ones like I talk about the PNP and the JLP, you might feel say, well, them love talk about the PNP and all them people that just not like PNP and them not like JLP. Well, there is a reason for that, and if you know the history from them time there, you would have realized that none of them two political parties are the people them as people, because they create an environment that has caused much debt over politics. Politicians in Jamaica have blood on them 8 foot, 2 on them hands. They have been doing this for years, these two political parties. So, we go to the case in mind now. In 1980, there was an old lady's home in Kingston. And because of political violence matched with Mr. Siaga and Mr. Manley, the political violence escalated to the point where them threw some kind of chemical in the place and burned down the old lady them home, and 150 odd people, elderly, got burnt up in that home. 150 odd of them get burned up. Even tied home. 1980, that was 40 years ago. Every time you hear we talk, before that, you know, then we have a next one, you know. The orange retreat fire, you know, where all baby get burned up in another one there, you know. Where them say all baby have come out like that man take up baby and throw back at the fire. Them think they happen in Jamaica because of politics. The PNP and the JLP caused that. We now remember the eventide when we were 150 odd people was killed, murdered just like that because of politics. We want to play something where the CIA, a whole lot of people want to deny it, but the CIA was involved in Jamaican politics because of Manley, who seemed to was going to hang on socialism, and him and Castro was getting too close. So as usual, just like Chile, just like Nicaragua, just like El Salvador, them decided that them going to tell you who to govern your country. So they had CIA agents in Jamaica doing all manner of overt and covert wickedness, shortage of food, this, that, and it come to the point where 150 old people get burned up in our place. Ask your mother about it or your grandmother about it. Because we can't forget that. We can't forget that. That's why when we hear politicians attack, my blood run cold according to what Peter Tass said. Your blood run cold. So we want to play this because this is an interview done by a news reporter in America. We are talking about a man who was personally here when certain things are going on, and I'm going to give you an insight in what we are talking about. Not no joke business. 40 years ago, 150 odd women and Mary Manley Delto get burned up, and that was because of the PNP and the JLP.
Well, I think one of the big stories that we were able to document in some detail was the whole scope of CIA activities similar to what the CIA did in Chile, and which was documented by the Senate Select Committee, was the whole covert action program in Jamaica in between 1976 and 1980. And we did a great deal of research into that, and we discovered in many ways a very similar program, almost a classic model that was followed along the lines of what they did in Chile, including three major categories: military, paramilitary activity, the use of propaganda in the media, and the third one, which was economic warfare, using the multilateral organizations, the International Monetary Fund and others, to withhold loans which had been promised to the Jamaican government. this is one example.
What are a couple more of the details of that? You particularly mentioned those first two examples of actual paramilitary activity the CIA was involved in Jamaica.
There was a fire, for example, that took place in Jamaica of an old people's home. I think 150 old and infirmed women, many of them blind, were living in this home. And as it turned out, the place burned down in the space of about 8 minutes, 7 or 8 minutes. It was discovered that the phone wires had been cut and that the exits had all been blocked. Even those who could see their way out could not get out. And that the means by which the fire was set was the use of a petroleum jelly, which was unavailable in Jamaica. This was one indication, among others, that there was outside help. Why would the CIA, you might ask, why would the CIA want to murder 150 old women? It was because it was an effort, part of a very large-scale effort to discredit the government in Jamaica, which was at the time headed by Michael Manley, the Prime Minister. There were images produced of Michael Manley in the media, in the Daily Gleaner, which was the newspaper which the United States, through the CIA, helped to support. And there is a good deal of evidence of that. There were images of Michael Manley showing a death mask. It was his face which had been somehow made to look like a death mask, although it was pretending to be a photograph of him. And there were many ways to try and discredit him. This is very, very similar, in fact, to what the CIA did to try and discredit Salvador Allende in Chile. If you remember, Richard Nixon instructed CIA in a meeting which was in 1970 in the White House, and there was a document in the Senate report which is reprinted, and he said, "Make the economy scream." Those were his words. And that's, of course, what the CIA proceeded to do in Chile, and that's what they also did in Jamaica.
They also furnished a lot of munitions and assistance to the terrorist squads that were going around killing people in the cities and also in the countryside in Jamaica as well.
That's correct.
Well, John, you had a trip down to Jamaica, and you saw a lot of these things about Jamaica with your own eyes, right?
Yes, indeed. A very moving, a very interesting trip to me to see a target country at a time in the height of a CIA operation when I was completely outside. So there's no way that I could see the problem that journalists have always had when the U.S. government was targeting on a country in a situation, trying to destabilize it, overthrow, or manipulate the elections or whatever, of trying to figure out what's going on when you don't have access to all of the flow of cables and the discussions in National Security Council meetings and whatnot for the planning. I observed that from published information, the CIA station there was quite large for that size of a country. It was huge, in fact. It was bigger than any station I knew of in Africa, although Jamaica was a fairly small island with 2 million people. That's typical of when the CIA has got a big operation going in a place. They beef up the station and beef up the offices back stateside. The tone and flow of articles in the Gleaner was, of course, as Lou says, definitely a chapter out of Chile or a chapter out of the Angolan operation. Every indication of a massive CIA operation going to destabilize the government, to make the economy scream, and in that case, I would say that probably someone got promoted for that one, probably several people.
Because Manley was run out of office by a legitimate...
Yeah, without a scandal, without an assassination, without the things that have caused the CIA so much grief, Manley, a champion of social democracy, of giving the people a piece of the pie, was thrown out of office, and an arch-capitalist was put in office. And again, there was minimal adverse publicity. Lou Wolf and the others were studying the situation and did publish about what was going on, but it was not published in the New York Times and the Washington Post and the big...
That was something as 40 years ago. still linger in a lot of people's mind. There's other things that we can mention too, like the Green Bay massacre, where them tell some youth, say them give them job and all them something there, and make them go to Green Bay and them just make soldiers go out to go kill them. Two parties them guilty of them things, and not just one party, the two parties them guilty. Because that is why you say a gang now cannot come and say them are defend TNP and them are defend JLP. And one government minister, prime minister, well I wasn't prime minister when him say it, but one government minister ever come out and say him admit, say him was involved and him know gangster, him know gunman. That was Bruce Golden in the Spanish Town era, where him come out and admit, say, yes, him know a whole heap of them. But they linger. The problem with it is now that politicians can't give them gun again because the youth them have enough gun now come from foreign for themselves. So them can't take away the gun them from the youth them. They have to kill them first. You understand? And we hear say 200 gun coming out of the country every month. We hear through the mouth of the Minister of National Security. We hear him say that 200 guns per month coming out of the country. How much guns per month them get? Since him said that until now, how much guns them get? 200 per month, you know, I think it's about July or in them time they him say it. So you are talking almost a year now. How much guns them take off of the streets since then? A joke business. Them really want we have faith in them and trust them. No, we can't do it. We can't do it with history like them there. And all this way them are going so now. All this way them are going so now, you know. Is to get the hearts and minds of the people. All this way are going is to get the hearts and minds of the people. But no better heroin, no better barrel. No better heroin, no better barrel. So when you look where I'm going and you see where I'm going, you know say them not really have the people them in them heart. Anything where them are do. Right in the back of them brains is that, you know, say if we do this, we can get some leeway against the next party. Yeah, you know, them can get leeway all the while when them do things. That is where them think. But I tell the people them, beware of greed.